Kind of
if
like
you think
Bitcoin
about it.
today. Yeah, it's like Bitcoin in a way. You've got this alternate currency that's not controlled by the Fed yet, and people are trading it almost as it's not a black market because it's open and legal, but it's almost like they're trading it as an alternate currency, and so that price is fluctuating all over the place as well. So will they come in and control that? Will they attempt to? I don't know if they can.
Well, you know, Bitcoin, we're going to have someone on the show who's a Bitcoin. I don't want to use the word expert because I'm not sure there is such a thing, but we're going to get their viewpoints. I argue still, and I will argue until I'm blue in the face, that Bitcoin has no intrinsic value.
I agree.
Now,
We've talked about this.
perhaps in a thousand years, if it's still around, it will have a historical track record, and people will listen to my show because it will still be the number one podcast in the world, as we know, a thousand
Of,
years from
of
now.
course, of
And
course.
they'll be listening and say, Petrucci was an idiot. Please play the takeaway for us. Thank you.
All content on the Risk Reward Show is for entertainment purposes only and not to be construed as financial advice. The hosts are idiots. They don't know what they're doing. They're not financial advisors. Come on, they just walked in from the street. Investments involve risk, so please consult a qualified professional before making decisions.
All right. All right. So let's get back here to a couple things before we go into a couple other subjects. We have this long holiday weekend. We didn't really have trading on Friday. The markets might be relatively light, but they've been nervous, no doubt,
Mm-hmm.
as we've been pointing out here. What do you think? I'm not asking you for prices. Do you think the markets are going to remain nervous this week?
Yeah,
Do
I
you think
do.
we're going to see the same whipsaw action?
I do. I think you made a point earlier. I can't remember if we were on camera or not, but you made a point that because of the long weekend, holiday weekend, at least here and well, in most of the West, the a lot of this might have been baked into the markets already, and speculation along with it. But I think we'll pick up where we left off with just uncertain markets fluctuating wildly. The biggest determining factor, I think, will be whether or not Trump pulls back on some of the tariff threats again, like he did a little bit a couple of weeks ago, last week. I think that'll be the bigger driver. But I mean, you look at the uncertainty, just like you said. It's like why would people want to invest in our markets when there's more certainty in other markets at the moment?
Because of the fact that you have large U.S. companies that will survive the current political climate. You know, NVIDIA, Apple, tons of other companies, of which we can list, will
Right.
be around much longer than the current politicians on the right or the left. That is
Correct.
why
Yeah.
people invest long term.
But
Speculators, day traders that are going in are the ones that are getting hurt right now
sure.
because the sentiment is changing so quickly. They're often using leverage, and it's like putting money on a roulette wheel, even worse, even
Yeah.
more dangerous in many
Well,
instances.
you've got these smaller companies that aren't the Coca Colas or Apples of the world, that aren't the brand names, that
Mm-hmm.
are those are the ones that'll get really hurt and struggle, and some will go away. And of course, as with any market, things will like other companies will come in and take advantage of that because nature abhors a vacuum. But
Mm-hmm.
in the meantime, there's going to be a lot of victims on the road, a lot of bodies on the road, as they say.
I think the barometers to look for are crude oil, which is trading calmly right now, but it's still relatively low. It's near $64. It should probably, if it were healthy, be trading between $68, $69 a barrel. Excuse me, gold, as we just spoke about, is very high. That's going to be a barometer. And the US dollar, the treasuries, all the normal things. I think it'll be choppy this week. That's
Mm-hmm.
not really saying much. It's really not giving anyone advice. I just think, like what you just said, that the outlook remains completely hazy over for the next month, certainly, and
Mm-hmm.
even for the next 3, 4 months. Now, if you're a long-term investor, here's a good question: are there enough values out there that you basically look at the markets right now and say this is an opportunity to buy stocks that are cheaper? In other words, an
Sure.
accumulation period. Are the next 6 months, 1 year going to be that accumulation period. Getting back to Warren Buffett, that's what I'm going to be looking for. Does Buffett say now the markets have sold off enough that I'm interested in finding things that we believe have value, and that there is value now because the markets have sold off? NVIDIA is around $100 right now. That to me looks very,
Yeah,
I don't want to say low, but it looks like a long term buying opportunity.
I think the same. I was looking at that as well. What is, I haven't checked today. What's Berkshire Hathaway trading at? They've got A
Do
shares and
not
B
know,
shares.
but I'll tell you. Let's see. Hold on one second. Let's change the subject a little bit. I want to know what you thought about and think about space tourism and the events that unfolded this week with, I'm not even going to name names, but with the crew on the Blue Origin space tourist extravaganza,
Mm-hmm.
which was widely criticized and mocked, it seems, by a lot of people. What do you think? First off, what do you think about space tourism? Two, if you had enough money, would you participate in it? Take it away, please.
Yeah, I think. Okay, so here are my thoughts. First of all, I think there was a lot of fun to be made about that launch. It was, and I think some of this verges on sexism a little bit because a lot of the humor that came from it that people like pointed to were the sound recordings. That did you hear any of these the sound recordings when they
No,
were like when
no,
the
I didn't.
parachutes deployed and when they were going up and whatever. So it was all female and it was like it wasn't like astronauts. They were all just sort of celebrities and friends of the court, as it were. And so it it was it was almost like it sounded like a pajama party in there. And I know that sounds sexist, but it isn't. It was only humorous because it was completely different from the typical sounds you hear of a typical launch going off, where it's just like a voice saying, "Okay, and now we're at and check," whatever. Instead, this is like ah.
I didn't hear
But
any of this.
it was awesome. It was
Uh,
fantastic. So, and if I had been in there, I'm sure I would have been doing the same thing. It's just total glee. um, and then, but that answers your next question about space tourism. I'm all for it. If you can generate that sense of euphoria in a one of a kind experience, you can charge anything you want for it. If people are
is it a
wealthy enough
little
to go in
like,
it, and eventually the prices will come down like they do with any new industry. I think it's great, and I think regardless of what we think, I think that's the future. Our children will have opportunities to go on camping trips to the moon. I have no doubt about that. And if
you
you
have
had the
no doubt
opportunity,
about that?
wouldn't you? I have no doubt about that. Eventually, maybe not our children, but certainly theirs, because it's happening. It's progressing so quickly. You have all these private space. You have SpaceX. You have Blue Origin. You have all these private companies doing this, and so they immediately the competition makes them outpace one another. NASA's just a government agency. They've done great work, but these guys are going to surpass them if they haven't already. I think they have in some ways. So I think it'll be more and more commercial. Otherwise, these guys wouldn't be in it. Elon Musk has made no uncertainty about the fact that he wants to go to Mars. He would love to go there himself. It's his childhood dream. And then you have the Jeff Bezoses of the world, sort of trying to keep pace with that. So I think space tourism is in our future. And sure, if I had the opportunity to go, I would go. I would do it once. I'll do anything once. I've gone skydiving and did that once. I have no interest in doing it again, but I can check it off the old bucket list.
Hmm. By the way, talking about craziness, it looks to me like Berkshire Hathaway was valued at, believe it or not, $80 per share in 1972. Is that possible?
Wow, I wouldn't have guessed
And as
that.
late as 1982, it was still below $1,000 at 775.
That makes
Now,
sense because I know
to
people who
get
own that stock, and I've known them
mm,
for several decades, and we've
mm,
had periodic conversations about that specific stock. And about what it's doing and versus in '87 and so on and so forth. And you're right, that tracks because I know that it was around 25,000 a share in around 1990. So if it went from 1,000 to 25 times that, in a decade. Yeah, that would track with it being $80 in 1972, did you say? That's crazy, though. The Risk Reward Show is a weekly podcast covering current events in worldwide business. Headquartered in Los Angeles and Tel Aviv, with partners in Chicago, New York, London, Shanghai, Mumbai, and Cape Town, we source opinions and news directly from where they're happening and then pass them along to you. Look for us wherever you get your podcast fix. Amazing.
Yeah, base fight. I look at this as comparable to going on a roller coaster. Is that what the noises were like? Would you say if you had closed your eyes,
Yeah.
were the noises that you heard kind of like the noises you would hear people making on a roller coaster?
Yeah, it sounds just like, well, maybe not a roller coaster so much as those drop rides like you see at Disneyland and some of the other parks.
Okay,
Like
fair enough.
yeah, like Twilight Zone, Tower of Terror, whatever they're calling it now.
Because I know,
Because I've been on those, and when it drops, everybody goes ah, and that was
yeah,
exactly the noise that you heard when the parachutes deployed as it was like dropping towards the ground, and all of a sudden it was exactly that.
I know when I'm on a roller coaster, which I love, by the way, that I laugh like a madman. I
Yeah.
mean, I laugh. It sounds like the devil has taken over my spirit, especially on the way down. When you get to, let's say the Six Flags roller coasters in northern Illinois, you're about to go over the dip and head straight down. I
Hmm.
start laughing with a nervous propensity that cannot be topped. I
I
mean,
love them too. I love roller
it's
coasters. Yeah.
fantastic. Now,
Yeah.
having said that, I don't think I'd be interested in this space tourism bullshit.
Oh, you
I
would.
just, no, I don't
If
think
you
so,
had an
Scott.
opportunity to
It's,
do it, let's say for free, if Elon Musk said, "Hey, Robert, I love what you're saying about me on the show.
yeah.
How'd you like to step aboard a rocket and go into
If he
low
wants
Earth
to come
orbit?"
along with me, if he wants to come with me, that would be fun. If I had a partner in crime to do it with, that I could watch their reaction,
Right.
that would be great.
Oh, you know what? You just created the next
Is it?
philosophical. Who would you have dinner with if you could pick three people? Who would you go to low Earth orbit with if you could pick three people in history?
Uh,
Okay, so we got
yeah,
Abraham
but
Lincoln, we got George
okay, but
Washington, we got.
that would be good. That would
Except
be a
they're
good
all in
Saturday
there. They're
Night
going
Live skit.
ah.
That would be a good Saturday Night Live skit to put
Yeah.
them. But
You know who I would?
all
We
right.
had this conversation the other night, not about the space capsule, three
Mm-hmm.
people, but the classic dinner conversation of when
Mm-hmm.
if you could pick three people to have dinner with, and I chose Neil deGrasse Tyson,
Mm-hmm.
Albert Einstein, who's Neil deGrasse Tyson's like one of his idols, he said,
Okay.
and Abraham Lincoln. And the reason for that is because all three of them would be in awe of the other. Because Lincoln freed the slaves, Neil deGrasse Tyson is African American. So Neil deGrasse Tyson would be looking up to two of his idols, maybe his two all-time idols, I don't know, but it would be reasonable to assume. And then you have Albert Einstein wondering about what the latest is on the physics front with Neil and marveling over where things have gone. Don't forget, Albert Einstein was he fled the Holocaust. And then you have Abraham Lincoln, who's just sort of marveling at how the possibilities could be positive, how the things that he did and others like him, have led to a lot of these great, amazing discoveries and so on. It would be such a positive group rather than the negativity that you hear in the world today. I thought it'd be cool. I don't think it's going to happen though. I have a feeling I can't make it happen. Hmm. Who are the three people you would invite in that capsule of yours?
I would have to think about that. I would have to think about that. It depends on my mood.
Mm-hmm.
And that would have a lot of, I think Martin Luther Jr. King would be one person, MLK Jr. I think Ben Gurion, maybe.
Interesting.
And maybe someone like Caesar or Alexander the Great,
Mm-hmm.
Joan of Arc.